Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for August 15th, 2017. In the tropics this afternoon, we have Hurricane Gert, top winds of 75 miles per hour, and it is moving away from the U.S., of course, around the northern part and the northwest side of this big Bermuda high that's sitting out over the Atlantic, a weakness over the eastern part of North America, trophiness, not allowing the ridge to build in enough to have sent this into the southeast, so that's good news there. However, this will continue, as it has done in the last day or so, to send swells towards the North Carolina coastline, especially, and that could create rip currents and other issues, so be mindful of that if you're heading to the beach. Meanwhile, out in the deep tropics, 20% chance of development in the short term, 40% in the long term, with what is Invest Area 91L, and back to the east, 30% and 40%, respectively, for this system, which is 92L. And then if we look at the 5-day outlook, that becomes even more, I won't say crazy, but it's busy, that's the word, with all kinds of systems here. Then we have this other one, a tropical wave over Western Africa that is forecast to emerge over the eastern tropical Atlantic, and this has a good chance of developing as well. So there's quite a bit of activity to keep an eye on, but nothing threatening land just yet. Now in the Pacific, a few systems to watch here. Both of these have very low probabilities of development, so we're really not worried about the Eastern Pacific right now. So we'll put an X there for me, meaning not going to happen. So looking at the visible shot of the Atlantic Basin, the wide shot this afternoon, there's Hurricane Gert, again between Bermuda and the Carolina coast here. And I cannot emphasize enough that these swells that are generated from those strong hurricane force winds will continue to impact the beaches. That's great for surfers, but it can be problematic for people who do not necessarily, they can't swim very well. And even the breaking waves right on the beach can be a problem for neck and back injuries. So really, this area here has a high risk of rip currents. Please be mindful of that if you're headed to the beach in that area. Meanwhile, this is Invest Area 91L, this is 92L, and this one looks a little bit more wound up than 91 does, maybe a little bit more favorable conditions back here. Both of these fairly close to one another. This one will probably come on to the west and eventually impact the islands here. We'll have to just see in what state it will be in, if it's stronger or if it continues to just hold its own, or maybe even it weakens. We'll just have to wait and see. There is some dry air, Saharan air coming off of Africa still. Just a little bit still too early by about a week or so, and then things usually become much more favorable climatologically speaking, especially considering how favorable most of the rest of the Atlantic Basin parameters are for this time of year in this season. So I think this one's going to have the better chance to develop over 91L in the short term, but you never know. This could end up somewhere in the Caribbean and try to develop there. The potential is on the map, so to speak, so we need to watch that over the next few days and maybe even a week. So here's Gert this afternoon, developing an eye again, so probably going to strengthen, might make it up to Category 2, and that will send those waves out towards the coastline up here, and that'll be great for surfers like I mentioned, but not so great if you're caught in a rip current or those breaking waves right on the shore. That can be a problem. Bermuda over here, no problems at all. Some of the swells could impact Bermuda as well, so keep that in mind too. Those radiate out in all directions from the hurricane. The vorticity signature in the Atlantic today, lots of energy down here in the main development region. There's Hurricane Gert. So, it's pretty active, as you would expect, from mid-August, and maybe in another couple of weeks or so, things will get even busier with higher potential of more named storms. I mean, think about it. We've already had 2 hurricanes now, Franklin and Gert, and both of those within a week of each other, and we're just at the midpoint of August. So, just something to keep in mind. And we have a long way to go. A wider perspective, you can see the north part of the continent of Africa here. Here's 91L, there's 92L, this is another system coming off, and then another system over Central Africa. So a busy time ahead, and all of these features will be moving generally west within the easterly flow here, and they will get out over the ocean and potentially be a future system to watch. Just because they don't develop right away doesn't necessarily mean they won't develop at all. So keep that in mind. I did want to show you this out of the National Weather Service in Newport, North Carolina. You have a beach hazard statement, a rip current statement, and again, all along the Outer Banks here, including the Crystal Coast area of the southern Outer Banks down to even parts of Pender County in North Carolina, Surf City, that area. I'm serious. Please be careful and be mindful of the dangerous conditions. It's awesome to see the waves coming in, great for the surfers, but I cannot emphasize it enough that there is a lot of power, a lot of energy, the rip currents, the waves breaking on the beach, directly onto the beach. That could be a real problem, so be cautious, okay? All right, well, that's it from me for today. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. That's my website, of course. Have yourselves a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.